to you about doors. Not the ones you go through every day, the ones you lock to be undisturbed, or the ones you slam when enraged. Today, I want to talk about doors that lead towards a new, exciting chapter of your life and how they can sometimes be firmly locked. Let me illustrate this with a little story. Shortly before I turned 14, my father, my sister, and I visited my grandma in Berlin. She is an artist, and we wanted to archive her works. When going through her documents, we found an old letter in which she had written about her life as a child and young adult. Though it was very emotional to me, I will not go through all the details because it was 4 pages long. But what shocked me was that she left school in 9th grade to take care of her adopted cousin whose father had just committed suicide, while her mother went out to earn a living. At that time, she was half a year older, not even than I am now. She left school, though she had not yet finished her compulsory education, which is why she later on got sent to housekeeping school for girls for the remaining 3 or 4 months. And secondly, she was an extremely good and talented student who hated to get anything lower than a 2, which is the equivalent of a B. She could have won every prize, gone into every profession, achieved every goal, if it weren't for this locked door. But just because such things occurred 60 years ago, it does not necessarily mean that these things don't happen today. Around half a year ago, I texted a friend to ask her why she wasn't in school. She told me that she had to take care of her little sister who was ill. Her mother was away and her dad was at work. This clearly shows that the stereotype that girls have to set back their academic ambition to help take care of family members hasn't been overcome to this day. But in reverse, there are so many reasons to keep the doors to education, especially for girls, wide open, as it is the sole most important way to overcome traditional stereotypes. For instance, the Project Drawdown, which is an Australian NGO that focuses on reducing the effects of climate change, states that educating women can reduce CO2 emissions by up to 85.42 gigatons until 2050. Just as a reference, you would need to fly on a Boeing 747 for 1 trillion hours to produce the same amount of CO2. But just saying, okay, we're gonna educate girls and then everything's fine, right? Wrong. Because at least for Germany, the amount of women with a high school diploma or a bachelor degree is way higher than for men. In coming to the high school diplomas, it's around 15%, and with the bachelor degrees, it's around 5%. But then, how come there are only 7 female CEOs in the Fortune 100 companies, and Angela Merkel is the only female state leader in the G20? Well, now, some people might say, well, maybe women don't want to have these jobs. They're wrong. Because it's not that women don't want to have these jobs, it's that sometimes, and I deliberately say sometimes, men lock doors in order to stop them. A few years ago, a woman was applying for a seat on the board of directors in a large public German company. She was a brilliant person and full of potential. But during the application process, she was suddenly accused of putting company money into her own pocket. There was no evidence for this whatsoever, but she was still excluded from the application until the matter had been cleared. In the end, it turned out she was completely innocent, but by the time this was realized, the post had already gone to someone else. In this case, it could have been because the person really badly wanted the job or some other reason. But on my father's side, my grandfather wanted my grandma to stay at home, take care of the children, and do the household work. Shockingly, this was the norm at that time, as until 1970, men were allowed to decide whether their wife worked a job outside the house, and they were allowed to quit for them without any plausible reason. And until 1977, women were obligated to do all household chores by German law. But apart from all of these hurdles we've seen so far and all of these traditional stereotypes, women are facing an additional challenge. It's that they're being judged because of who they are and what they are. And trust me, I know what it feels like. Every time I met a new person and told them how old I was, surprise was written all across their face. They didn't even have to show it, but when I was like a medium searching for a Holy Spirit to communicate to, I could feel its presence. Sometimes I asked people to guess my age. Some said I was 11 or 12, maybe 13, but once someone thought I was in 3rd grade. I was actually 12 and a half. Sometimes these incidences made me wonder whether they were right, whether I was a little child, and whether I also behaved like one. And I lost part of my self-esteem. And I'm far from the only one. In Austria, women went as far as to write Magister in front of their name on a business card so that in a meeting, they wouldn't be mistaken for the secretary. In the past and present, so many women have been underestimated. Just look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who unfortunately passed away a few days ago, who was asked, together with all other female law students at Harvard, why she thought that she deserved to take a man's place. Florence Nightingale, who was laughed at when saying that she wanted to become a nurse. And Michelle Obama, who held a fabulous, inspiring speech, only then to find out that the only thing the press had written about was her outfit. Though there have been so many horrible incidences against women in the past, I'm really happy to say that there have been some improvements. For instance, the amount of women working in Germany has gone from around 58% in 2000 to around, another 10% in 2019. As well as that, the amount of women in the German parliament has risen from a measly 9% after the Second World War until 30% in 2013. These quotes could be way better, but I think you will agree that it is a step in the right direction. Everything I've talked about so far might seem like a really complex topic that's hard to grasp, but the solution to it is surprisingly simple. So may I present the Rebecca formula? And just so that you don't wonder, I spelled it with double C because there aren't enough English words with K. R is for responsibility because we cannot pretend that everything is the universe's fault. E for education, because it is the sole most important way to overcome stereotypes. B for bravery, to stand up to these ideas. E for encouragement, to tell others to do so too. C for coaching, to help people overcome their prejudice. C for change, because this is what needs to happen. And A for awareness, because this is what needs to be raised. When I look into the future, I hope to see men and women as equal in every aspect of life. Though the way there will certainly not be easy, I hope that one day my dream will be achieved. And so I tell you today, don't judge women by looking at their covers, and never, ever lock a door standing in their way. Thank you.